There is a conversation happening right now in the quiet corners of society that no one wants to talk about. It's not happening on the morning news. It's not happening in the couples therapy sessions, because the men involved aren't going to therapy anymore. They aren't asking for permission. They aren't complaining about the state of the world. They are simply opting out. I speak to men every single day, men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. These are not failures. These are not men who couldn't get a woman. These are captains of industry. These are men who built businesses, raised successful children, paid off mortgages, and carried the weight of their families on their backs for 40 years. They are men who know exactly what it takes to maintain a relationship, because they did it day in and day out for decades. And yet, when you get them alone, maybe over a scotch, maybe in the garage, maybe just in a quiet moment of honesty, they all say the exact same thing. It is a confession so taboo that it would shatter their families if they said it out loud at Thanksgiving dinner. They say, "I would rather die alone than do it again." They say it with a calmness that is terrifying. It's not the heat of anger, it's the coldness of absolute resolve. They have looked at the landscape of modern partnership. They have looked at the golden years companionship that society promised them. And then they looked at their empty, quiet houses. And they chose the house. They chose peace. To the outside world, this looks like a tragedy. Your sister looks at you with pity. Your married friends look at you with a mix of suspicion and fear. They ask you, "But who will take care of you?" They ask, "Don't you want to share your life?" They whisper behind your back that you must be damaged or bitter or afraid of intimacy. But they are wrong. You aren't afraid of intimacy. You are exhausted by the cost of it. You have done the math, and for the first time in your life, the math of partnership has returned a negative value. You realize that the currency of your remaining years is too valuable to spend on a bad investment. To understand why you are here, we have to go back. We have to look at the man you used to be, and the lie you were sold. Do you remember your 20s? Do you remember that ache? It wasn't just a want, it was a biological imperative screaming in your blood. You looked at the world and you saw it as a construction site. You were the builder. Society handed you a blueprint and said, "If you build the castle, the queen will bring you happiness." You believed it. God, you believed it. You saw couples walking hand in hand and you felt a physical pain of longing. You wanted the us. You wanted the teammate. You wanted the soft place to land after a hard day of war. You believed that marriage was a sanctuary. You believed that if you sacrificed enough, provided enough, and protected enough, you would be rewarded with loyalty and peace. So, you signed the contract. You entered the workforce with a fire in your belly. You took the job you didn't love because it paid for the house you wanted. You swallowed your pride when the boss chewed you out because you had a family to feed. You stayed late. You travelled. You missed the hobbies you loved. You sold the motorcycle. You stopped seeing the friends who were bad influences. You chiseled away pieces of your own identity, day by day, to fit into the mold of husband and father. And for a while, you told yourself it was working. You had the photos on the mantle, you had the Christmas cards, you had the status. But nobody told you about the invisible tax. Nobody told you that the castle wasn't a sanctuary. It was a job site that never closed. You spent 30 years managing the internal weather of another human being. You became an expert in micro-expressions. You learned that the way she closed the cabinet door told you exactly what kind of evening you were going to have. You learned to scan the room for threats, not physical threats, but emotional ones. Is she happy? Did I say the wrong thing? Is there a hidden meaning in that sigh? You walked on eggshells in the house you paid for. You learned to edit your thoughts before you spoke them. You learned that peace was something you had to purchase every single day, through compliance, through apology, through the suppression of your own needs. You absorbed her stress. You absorbed her anxiety about the kids, her conflict with her mother, her insecurity about her age. You became the emotional sponge. And what did you get in return? You got managed. You got a partner who treated you less like a king and more like an unruly employee who needed to be corrected. You got the honey-do list. You got the subtle criticisms about how you dress, how you eat, how you drive. You got the sex that became transactional, a reward for good behavior rather than an expression of desire. And then it ended. Maybe it was a divorce that stripped you of half the empire you built. Maybe it was an illness. Maybe it was just a slow drift, until one day you looked across the table and realized you were strangers. However it happened, the contract was broken, and you found yourself standing in the wreckage of the life you built, alone. The first few months were strange. They tell you that you should be grieving, and you were. But underneath the grief, underneath the shock, there was something else, something you felt guilty for feeling. Relief. A deep, physical exhale that you hadn't taken in 30 years. You woke up that first Saturday morning in your own apartment, or the house that was finally empty, and there was silence. Not the heavy, tense silence of the silent treatment, not the angry silence of an unresolved argument, just pure, neutral, glorious silence. You lay in bed and realized, no one needs me right now. There was no list waiting for you. There was no one disappointed in you for sleeping in. There was no one judging how you made your coffee. The air in the room belonged to you. The time belonged to you. This was the moment the seed was planted. This was the moment you tasted sovereignty. But the world doesn't let you stay there easily. The programming runs deep. You looked around and thought, I need to get back out there. Because that's what men do. We fix things. We pair up. We don't die alone. So, you entered the modern dating market, and this is where the second awakening happened. You are a man of value. You have assets. You have life experience. You have emotional stability. You walked into the dating world assuming that these things had worth. You assumed you would find a woman who was looking for a partner, a companion, an equal. Instead, you found the audition. You downloaded the apps. You swiped. You sat in coffee shops and wine bars across from women in their 50s and 60s. And you listened. You listened to the list of demands. I need a man who loves to travel. Translation, I need you to fund the retirement lifestyle I didn't save for. I need a man who is emotionally available. Translation, I need you to be my therapist because I haven't processed my last divorce. I need a man who can handle me. Translation, I take no accountability for my chaotic moods and I expect you to absorb them. You looked at these women who are often broken, bitter, or entitled, and you realized they weren't looking for you. They were looking for a role to be filled. They were looking for a nurse with a purse, someone to take care of them as they age, someone to pay the bills, someone to validate them, someone to fill the empty space in their living room. And what were they offering in return? Presence. Just presence. They believed that simply showing up was the gift. They believed that you, a man who has conquered mountains, should be grateful for the opportunity to carry their baggage. You sat there, sipping your lukewarm coffee, and you did the calculation. You looked at your life, your quiet, peaceful, autonomous life, and you looked at the woman across the table who was already complaining about the service, or talking about her toxic ex-husband, or hinting about her financial struggles. And you asked yourself the question that changes everything. What value does she add that is greater than the peace I would have to sacrifice to have her? The answer was 0. Actually, it was less than 0. It was a deficit. You realized that bringing her into your life wouldn't add to your happiness. It would subtract from your freedom. It would mean resuming the invisible tax. It would mean going back to managing moods, negotiating your time, and walking on eggshells. And for what? For a warm body? For someone to watch Netflix with? The math didn't add up. It was a bad business deal. And you didn't get to where you are in life by signing bad deals. This is the part your family doesn't understand. They see your solitude as a failure. They think you are sad. They think you are lonely. They don't understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. It is a hollow ache. It is the feeling that you are missing something essential. Solitude is the glory of being alone. It is the state of being complete in yourself. It is the luxury of not being drained by others. You aren't lonely, you are solitary, you are sovereign. Think about the physiology of it. People tell you that getting older is hard because your testosterone drops. They tell you it's a curse. Let me tell you the secret. It is a gift. When you were 25, your testosterone was a biological hijacker. It was a chemical fog that blinded you to reality. It It made you tolerate disrespect. It made you ignore red flags. It made you chase women who were bad for you simply because they were beautiful. You were a slave to the reproductive imperative. Now, the fog has lifted. The hijacker is gone. For the first time in your life, you are seeing women clearly. You aren't thinking with your biology. You are thinking with your logic. You can look at a beautiful woman and appreciate her, but you don't need her. You don't have that desperate, clawing hunger that makes men do stupid things. You have the power of no. Do you know how powerful a man is when he cannot be manipulated by sex? Do you know how invincible you are when you can look at a woman who is trying to use her charm to control you, and you just feel indifference? It is the ultimate freedom. You have graduated from the game. So, let's talk about this sad life that everyone is so afraid of. Let's look at the reality of the man who chooses peace. You wake up when your body is ready. The house is still. The light is coming through the window exactly the way you like it. You go to the kitchen. You make coffee. You sit in your favorite chair, the one that no one complains is ugly, and you read. You think. You exist in a state of pure, uninterrupted flow. There is no morning briefing. There is no energy check to see if your partner is in a bad mood. There is no anxiety about what the day holds. The day holds whatever you decide it holds. Your money is yours. You want to buy the expensive tool for the garage? You buy it. You want to invest in a risky stock? You do it. You want to book a trip to fishing in Montana? You book it. You don't have to hide the receipt. You don't have to justify the expense. You don't have to negotiate the budget. You are the CEO of your own resources. Your time is yours. If you want to spend 6 hours working on a project, you do it. No one texts you asking, "When are you coming home?" No one guilt trips you for neglecting them. You rediscover the hobbies you abandoned 20 years ago. You remember that you used to paint, or play guitar, or fix cars. You reconnect with the parts of yourself that you amputated to fit into the marriage box. Your friendships change. When you were married, your social life was dictated by her. You went to couples' dinners. You hung out with the husbands of her friends, men you had nothing in common with, talking about lawns and traffic. Now, you choose your tribe. You hang out with men you respect. You have deep, real conversations. You go on trips that are rugged and uncomfortable trips a wife would never approve of. You rediscover the brotherhood. And the sleep. My God, the sleep. You lay your head down at night with a clear conscience. There is no tension in the bed. There is no silent treatment freezing the air. There is just you, the cool sheets, and the profound restorative rest of the just. This is not a sad life. This is a king's life. Now, compare that to the alternative. Consider what happens if you cave to the pressure and find a partner. You find a woman. She's nice enough. She's age appropriate. You start the dance. The first 6 months are the honeymoon phase. Everyone is on their best behavior. It feels good. You have a companion. But then, the creep begins. She starts leaving her things at your house. She starts criticizing your furniture. "That recliner is hideous," she says. "We should get a new one." Note the word "we." Suddenly your sanctuary is becoming a shared space. The boundaries begin to erode. Then come the family obligations. Her daughter is getting divorced and needs money. Her grandkids need babysitting. Her mother is sick. Suddenly, your peaceful Tuesday night is hijacked by the drama of strangers. You are expected to care. You are expected to show up. You are expected to pay. You are back in the role. You are the provider. You are the rock. But you are tired. You already did this. You raised your kids. You cared for your parents. You earned your rest. But here you are, at 65 years old, raising a second family that isn't even yours. And the criticism returns. The "why didn't you call?" The "you never listened to me." The "you're so set in your ways." She calls you stubborn because you won't bend to her will. She calls you emotionally unavailable because you won't participate in her chaos. She gaslights you into thinking that your desire for peace is a character flaw. You look at her, sitting on your couch, scrolling through her phone, complaining about a person you don't know, and you think, "I gave up my silence for this?" That is the nightmare. That is the trap. And that is why you walked away. You realize that there is no relationship on earth that is worth the price of your sovereignty. You realize that at this stage of the game, you are playing for time. Time is the only currency you have left. Every hour you spend managing a relationship is an hour you cannot spend on your own life. Every dollar you spend on courtship is a dollar you cannot spend on your own freedom. Every ounce of emotional energy you spend validating her is an ounce of energy you cannot spend on your own purpose. You are not dying alone. You are living fully. This phrase, dying alone, is a manipulation tactic. It is a ghost story told to men to keep them on the plantation. Let's be honest about death. We all die alone. Death is a solo act. Whether you have a wife holding your hand or a nurse checking your vitals, the experience of leaving this world is yours and yours alone. The question is not how you die. The question is how you live before you die. Do you live as a servant to someone else's expectations? Do you live as a walking wallet? Do you live as an emotional punching bag? Do you spend your final years arguing about the thermostat and the in-laws? Or do you live as a free man? You have chosen freedom. And yes, freedom has a cost. The cost is the warm body on the other side of the bed. The cost is the social approval of the herd. The cost is the occasional Sunday afternoon where the house feels a little too quiet. But you pay that cost gladly. Because you know the alternative. You know that the loneliness of a bad relationship is infinitely worse than the solitude of a quiet home. You know that being trapped in a cage with someone who drains you is a slow death. You know that peace is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of self. So, to the men who have chosen peace, do not apologize. When your family asks why you aren't dating, smile and say, "I'm retired." When your friends try to set you up, tell them you're busy building something. When the world tells you that you are broken, look at your life, your calm, rich, autonomous life, and realize that you are the only one who is actually fixed. You have broken the cycle. You have stepped off the treadmill. You have refused to play a game where the only way to win is not to play. You are the ghost in the machine. You are the man who walked away from Omelas. You are the Ronin who set down his sword and decided to sit by the river. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them scramble in their cages trying to convince themselves that their chains are jewelry. They are terrified of you because you prove that the cage is optional. You know the truth. Peace is not a consolation prize. Peace is not what you settle for when you can't get love. Peace is the trophy. It is the highest level of existence a man can achieve. And you have won. Hold the line. Keep the gate locked. Enjoy the coffee. You made it.